So if you currently do not know this, I am using a 1440p monitor as my display of choice for the PS5. And long story short, although the PS5 does not allow you to play at 1440p, this specific monitor here allows you to play at either 4K at 60 FPS or 1080p at 120 FPS. More on that in this video that just popped up right up here. And as you guys can imagine, so far it has been fantastic. I haven't ran into any issues whatsoever. However, there have been quite a number of rumors and assumptions out there that state that whenever you downscale a 1440p monitor to 1080p, it ends up creating increased blurriness and decreased sharpness, and at the end of the day, it looks bad. And this is due to the fact that the total amount of pixels within a 1440p display is not divisible by the total amount of pixels within a 1080p display. So yeah, I know that might not make any sense, but that doesn't matter because that is the reason of today's video. So as a reasonable YouTuber, I decided I'm gonna test this theory out to see if there is a noticeable difference of playing at 4K at 1440p or at 1080p on a 1440p display. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I realized that in order to do this test, I can't just use my normal capture card to do this, because at the end of the day, the capture card is set at 1080p at 60 FPS. So no matter what I do, you're not gonna see a difference. So what I had to do was I had to set up a camera and aim it at a specific point on the monitor that I have. And I'm gonna shift through different types of resolutions and frame rates, and I want you to decide if there's a difference. So I'm gonna be able to test the 4K and 1080p resolutions that are able to be outputted from my PS5, as well as native 1440p from my PC directly. But before we do this test, I bet a lot of you guys are wondering what was I talking about with 1440p divisible by 1080p and 4K and aspect ratio, and what does it all mean? Well, basically, if you multiply the horizontal pixels by the vertical pixels on a 1080p display, which in other words will be 1920 times 1080, you would get a very large number. Now, if you did the exact same thing to a 4K display, you would get an even larger number. These numbers represent the total amount of pixels on a given display. The more pixels a display has, the higher the resolution. Now, if you divide the total amount of pixels on a 4K display by the total number of pixels on a 1080p display, you will notice that it is a whole number, thus it is divisible with one another. In case you don't know this by now, 4K is 4 times the resolution of 1080p. So if there are 4 pixels in a square formation, you would just downscale it to 1 singular pixel. On the flip side, if you did the exact same thing to a 1440p display, but instead we divided the total number of pixels on a 1440p display by 1080p, then you would see it ends up being 1.77 recurring. And this is not a whole number, so we have a bit of an issue. That means that a given pixel is going to be given an instruction to be 0.77 of a particular color, but since pixels only work in whole numbers, they can't be 0.77 of one color and then 0.23 of another color. It has to choose whether it needs to round up or round down to the next whole number. Now just imagine this phenomenon with not only just 2 pixels, but now you're talking about an entire display. This in theory can cause quite a bit of blurriness because you're not actually getting the exact pixel that pixel is intended to be. If you're still confused up to this point, just tap J a couple times on your keyboard and just rewatch that part just a little bit, and I promise you're gonna be able to get it. But back to the test. I made sure my camera is set up that way it is looking at a particular part on my monitor, and I booted up my PS5 and double checked the settings before playing anything just to make sure I have it in resolution mode. That way it forces the PS5 to play in 4K resolution and not 1080p or a resolution that I didn't intend it to be playing on. So then I booted up COD and I played a couple rounds of Nuketown on my PS5, once again of course set at 4K at 60 FPS. And I'm not gonna lie, I was whooping ass. Although at the end of the game we did lose, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, I can't blame myself. It's always my teammates to blame. Am I right or am I right? Even during the game, I even verified to make sure that the PlayStation was outputting in 4K resolution and not 1080p. And I even went over and checked the monitor to make sure that that also was outputting at 4K resolution and not something else. Then I closed the game, I changed the settings to performance mode, that way it defaulted to 1080p 120 FPS, and I did the exact same thing. Minus the fact that Treyarch decided to slap me in the face with a thing called skill-based matchmaking. This made it a very unpleasant experience. I'm not gonna lie, I did die a couple times, maybe a couple more times than I was intending on dying, but that's why I play zombies. Regardless, I still made sure I verified that I was getting the correct resolution and frame rate, which of course I was. Then after I got all that said and done, I turned off my PS5 and started up Cold War on my computer and made sure once again that these settings were set correctly to 1440p this time at native resolution. Then I made sure that the settings were set correctly at 1440p. I repeated the exact same process as I did the last 2 times, except I think I got my ass whooped just a little bit more, but that's okay. This is all just for testing, testing purposes, so you can't really blame me too much about this. Now that we have all the testing said and done, now it's time to see the results. Now I'm not gonna tell you which one is which. I wanna see if you guys are able to spot any differences in the following 3 clips to see if there is any difference whatsoever between the 4K, the 1080p, and the 1440p. So I tried my best to find clips that were as close as possible in similarities, like this elbow clip over here and the main menu clip, and even some clips of me shooting here, but yeah, it was quite difficult, not gonna lie, but regardless, you should be able to tell if there is any difference or not. And I tried doing all of this without moving my camera any closer to the monitor, because then it'll start doing more waves, and we obviously don't want that. So these are the results. On the left, we have the 1080p, on the middle, we have 1440p, and on the left, we have the 4K. As you can clearly tell, there is little to no difference. If you were able to tell which one was which, pat yourself on the back, because I was not able to. And trust me, I did extensive testing with all 3, so I really don't know how people have this assumption that 1440p monitors do this type of blurriness when it comes to downscaling to 1080p. Now then again, I do think that possibly they could be referring to older generation 1440p monitors. That being said, this specific Asus 1440p monitor here does not have that issue that a lot of people were referring to, especially when it comes to downscaling to 1080p. It just doesn't happen with this monitor. Now, if you're wondering how it's possible that this monitor here is capable of being able to do this without having increased blurriness or decreased sharpness, to be honest with you, I am not sure. I actually have my head wrapped around this, and I've been looking online trying to find an answer to this, but I really just have not been able to find it. But I know newer and newer models do come out with more technology in them, so they probably have some sort of algorithm going on in the background that is allowing it to be able to be downscaled without losing any sort of detail. But if you guys do know how it's possible, why this monitor doesn't have those issues, let me know in the comment section down below, because I really do want to know. But regardless, guys, this has been my thorough testing. Let me know what you guys think about this, and if you guys have any questions whatsoever, of course, let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this. And as always, guys, I do stream on Twitch every Wednesday, so if you have any questions whatsoever, let me know on there as well, or if you just want to come by and check out some amazing gameplay from yours truly, come by twitch.tv, Matthew the Best. But anyways, guys, my name is Matthew. Thank you so much for watching, but as always, peace out.